All right, welcome back. Another episode of the Rush Hour Pod. This is Justin. I'm T Dub. We're here to talk tech, talk industry from non-technical people, as we've mentioned a couple times. I thought today we'd start out with shareholder meetings. I watched a couple of them. I
Let's
watched
get into it.
GameStop, which everyone is crazy about, and then I watched the Tesla one. Before we get, how are you doing, Jess? How's everything?
Everything's good, man. Had a good Father's Day with the twins. We did a little steam train action and a carousel
Nice.
ride, and got a nice car. It was cool, man. How was your Father's Day?
Yeah, it was uneventful as it should be. I feel like I joke with my kids. I'm like, this is one of the top 100 holidays. They're
Yeah,
like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it's probably in the 90s of all the holidays we have.
I
It's
know.
I can't say it's just not important, and I get it. Like I remember it as a kid. Not like I never really knew what Father's Day was. So, Mother's
Yeah,
Day,
exactly.
obviously, you love your mom, but
Oh
you're
man,
kind of like,
everybody
okay,
loves
it'll
your
be
mom.
all right.
Yeah, and I'm like, I kind of get that as a man.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
Now,
we'll
now I
be all
get it though. Yeah,
right.
I'll be fine. No, it was fun though. We just kind of hung out, had a meal, did nothing. It was
Nice,
nice.
nice.
I figured I'd jump into the two shareholders meetings because I watched them closely because as we've talked about, I put a few bucks in both of them to sort of like have
Mm-hmm.
some skin in the game. I'll start with GameStop. So
Let's do it.
GameStop has their shareholder meeting. The first time they launch it, it gets canceled due to technical difficulties, and the stock actually goes up. The stock goes up 7, 8, 10% because whatever 2 million, 3 million people tried to jump into their shareholder meeting and it crashed. So they rescheduled it. I think it was supposed to be on like a Thursday, and then they rescheduled it for a Monday. So Monday morning comes around, they they, they launch it. They've got Robinhood links. They get everybody in, and everyone's expecting, hey, what are they doing with all this money? They raised, hundred or some, uh, whatever $1 billion through $3 billion, I think is what they ultimately raised. And they had
Yep.
Ryan Cohen speak, and he basically said nothing. Like he was just like, "Oh, actions are louder than words," as my dad said. We raised some money. He just spoke matter of factly about all of it and said
Yeah.
literally nothing. Like he said nothing. It was 15 minutes. The entire meeting was 15 minutes, and like they had a vote on like DEI, um, leadership, council, and the stock. Literally, the second that Ryan Cohen stopped and they went into DEI, the stock just started to drop. So it
Oh
was like
man.
20, 29, it dropped to 25, 23. That's kind of where we are today. It was just hilarious at that. And then I was like, that's interesting. Conversely, I watched the Elon Musk Tesla shareholder meeting, and it was like the complete opposite. It starts, and Elon is like rah rah happy. Like he actually says, first off, I want to say how much I love you. Like that's how he started the shareholder. Like how much he loves you as a shareholder.
Well,
And
that
then
makes
and then
sense.
he That's crazy. Like he's like, oh, I just first off I want to say how much I love you. I was like, whoa, that's
Question:
a little much. Uh-huh.
Was the shareholder meeting post the vote, or was it like after? Like, was it before the vote, or when was it?
Oh, it was during the vote. It was before the
Oh,
vote. It was
it
before
was
the
before
vote.
the vote. Oh, okay, got you.
Yes.
Okay.
So then he kind of goes into a spiel about, I guess shareholder meetings are kind of giving you an update, what happened this quarter, a little bit about what the plans are for the future. And he goes into the Cybertruck and how great it is and how it's probably the best vehicle they made. Da, da, da. And then he talks about the Robo-Taxi, which we've talked about, which is kind of amazing. And he says, this has the potential to 10x the company value just off of Robo-Taxi, because he talks about how every unsold Tesla will get put to work, and
Right.
every sold Tesla will also have the opportunity to join the network and will essentially be on the roads making money for you. And he said there's no reason you would not be able to recoup your monthly lease payment through using the RoboTax service. He's like, hey, you go on vacation, you put your car to work, and maybe it pays for the car itself or your vacation. That's pretty cool. He's just like, hey, this,
Yeah.
and then he does the math, and he's like, hey, this could 10x the company. This could raise our market cap. This could be whatever. He compares it to Uber and how it could be bigger than Uber.
Yep.
Everyone claps. Amazing. And then he talks about the robot, and he's like, hey, we're working really hard on the robot. And he says, this is what I think about robots. Like the robot that we've built today called Optimus is on our assembly line today. It doesn't rest. It works all day, all night. It's packing and doing packing and shipping, and it's doing tasks, and we can upload a video, and he mimics it. He does it. And he's like, we are modifying and optimizing and upgrading this robot in exponential terms month over month. And he just talks about how there's going to be a time where you're going to want a robot in your house.
Yeah.
And he says, hey, in Star Wars, he has C-3PO. Wouldn't it be great to have that in your home? Be even better. You had R2-D2 too, and they could do different tasks, and they could make your life much better. And he's like, does the math, and he says, hey, imagine a world where they could do, while you're sleeping, they clean the house, do the dishes, and they could do all of these things that you hate doing, all the tasks that you hate. You can assign to a robot to do them, cooking, cleaning, all of the things, right? And he says, you're gonna want this. So he does the math. He's like, hey, just like a car, imagine this is cheaper. Let's say it costs, when we scale this thing, it's a $10,000 robot. We charge $20,000. It's cheaper than any car. You look at how many cars are on the road. You imagine, let's just assume everyone wants a robot in their home, just like everyone needed a car in their home. And there you go. There's another $20 trillion on our market cap. And he just does the math. And he's like, hey, we can, just with this robot, if we can get 10% of the market, we can again 10x the company. And you're just doing the math in your head like, wow, this guy, I mean, how can you not be hyped about Tesla? And he even joked, he said, hey, I'm an optimist. I've always overcommitted, but I always deliver. I may be slower. I may have said things in the past about timelines that I came up short, but I always deliver. And that's something that I want you to know. I always deliver. So I say these things and they sound like, a pipe dream, but he's like, this is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And I, of course, I'm an optimist and I want it to happen in a few years, but it could take longer. And he was just like very open about it, but he's like, it's going to happen. This is what I'm going to do. Whether you like it or not, these robots are coming and they're going to help you and they're going to make your life better. And I was like thinking, wow, like you look at GameStop and you look at Tesla and it's just like the counter culture of like that meeting in general. One, like give you as little information as possible, and it's kind of up to you to guess as to what's happening. And the other one is the opposite, where it's like I'm going to tell you the world at not too much detail, but at least tell you the giant scope of my
vision.
Yeah, and get you hyped on it, and then walk away with, this is what I'm trying to do, and everyone claps and is super happy about all the things he's doing. And then watching the two stocks perform, it's really interesting that the worlds are where they are, and so many, I guess it's meme stocks, so it's really hard to have GameStop be incredibly innovative when they got just Roaring Kitty posting a meme and then the stock goes up. It's kind of hard.
But maybe they're self-aware. They're probably self-aware too. Let's keep this as short as possible. Where we're going to get the real gains on this stock is not going to be during the meeting. It's going to be on everything after and what happens in the culture around the company. So there's really not much they can do to change there. Whereas for Tesla, people want to hear Elon speak. He is the visionary. He's the one who's kind of made these kind of like crazy sounding bets in the past. If you play back kind of CNBC news telecast, but then now look like he was completely sane. So I get, it's kind of like when people,
What are your thoughts on like the robot? Every home having a robot to do chores and tasks and things around your home. What are your thoughts?
Okay. So my, I guess, personal example of that would be I own a Roomba at home. And every day at 7:30, it goes off for about an hour and it cleans, my entire upper floor. I don't need to sweep really at all. It does about 93, 95% of everything. Maybe there's like a little bit of, some crumbs here or there, but it's not something I have to think about or worry about at all. And you got kids, and I got really young kids. So at the end of the night, the last thing you want to do after you put them down is come up and do all the sweeping. Obviously we're going to wash dishes, clean the house, but it just frees up a tremendous amount of time. And so that's kind of how I think about the robots long term. If I could also have the robot washing the dishes, maybe even preparing food, maybe, doing some outdoor work, et cetera, to free up more time that I have to spend with my family, to, do whatever I want to do, whatever hobbies, et cetera, and I can afford to do it, then that's a huge win for me, because I think that the most important thing that you have is time, right? Like, and I value my time very highly. So if I can accomplish a lot of the daily tasks that I would do otherwise, I take up time that I don't necessarily, enjoy as much, and that free me up 1,000%. I think that would be huge. The question is, what will be the starting price point? What percentage of people can get the value of that at first? And then how quickly will costs come down relative to competition in the market and other companies making them, so that everybody could get at least some type of robot that is relatively helpful? Maybe not the model that, Tesla has, maybe not with Optimus, but another version that Samsung has that's good enough relative to what they're willing to pay, and it still frees up time.
Yeah, it seems like it sounds like a Star Wars kind of thing, but it does have some merit. And you think about the haves and the have-nots in this country. This seems like, once again, is going to broaden that gap, that margin of, if you have it, if you have the money, you're gonna have more free time. Because why? Because you're gonna have this robot doing tasks that you don't have to spend your time and energy and effort on, so you can spend more time doing, keeping the main thing, right? Like, it's kind of like, I don't know where I stand on it. Like, having a robot in my house doing that, in theory, sounds absolutely amazing. Like, nothing would make me happier than for a robot to put my duvet cover, because that thing it's just impossible. Yeah. God knows how much I would pay in the moment for but like, what, there's something to doing those things. I don't know where I stand with it. I part of me thinks of course I'm going to jump in and try to test one out and see. Yeah. But there's also a part of me that's like, really, a robot walking around your house doing things? Or are we?
Here's another example is, right, like, I have the the Echo at home, and so Alexa this and that, and like that frees up time, etc. I think it's just kind of the progress just may be exponential at some point, and we may not be perceiving these things in the way now. It's like, oh, you have a robot in your home. It might be like, yeah, of course, like everybody does, right, at some point. But I just see this as the rate of progress of technology, which is pretty insane, but also just how these things tend to iterate. The biggest thing in my mind as I think about these things, and I kind of pull in, the robot piece with generative AI and just the pace of technological innovation generally, is at some point, there just won't be enough kind of like jobs for humans to do, whether they be blue collar jobs or white collar jobs, et cetera. And a lot of people, I would say myself included, get value out of, their work product and things they do and how they add value to, to society and earn income from that and prestige, et cetera. And so when there are fewer of those opportunities where there's just like not enough for everyone, and maybe you have some form of UBI, et cetera, like, what is it? Maybe this is too existential, but maybe not. I'd be curious your opinion. What does humanity look like, in terms of how we interact with each other, how we derive value, et cetera? I think that, to me, that's like a far more interesting question in terms of where things are going, relative to what the day-to-day of a human looks like in this new world.
No, I was actually thinking about this too. Like, it seems like at the rate we're going, we're gonna eventually get to a point where these robots have so much data, and they have the computing power and the know-how to actually make everyday decisions, that you're going to have a question of like, hey, who do you want? Who do you want to run this? A human with all the, you know how humans are. Well, I can imagine that being a conversation. Or do you
Yeah.
want a robot where you can program, you know what you're going to get, and you're going to have this thing running an important task? Which one would you rather? And I imagine a lot of people will say, hey, I want a robot to do, like, for example, surgery, or important things like cleaning your teeth, or going to a doctor's appointment for your kid. Having a robot tell you these things, and maybe having a nurse or an assistant, does it make, like, I could imagine a world where you're like, yeah, sure, and then you go further. Who do you want running this country? Trump, human or robot, with all the knowledge and power and all the sort of programming capability and logic built into it? Then it's like, okay, now we got a robot potentially running our country. Like, that is crazy.
I know.
We could get there.
I know. I think the tricky thing is there, and this kind of ties back to some of the social media conversations that we've had around, algorithms and impact on mental health and people's well-being, et cetera, is there are some like tasks that you want to just be done with very low margin of error, right? If you have some type of surgery done or something like that. Right. But then you have other things like social media and the spread of ideas and politics, and maybe how, wealth gets distributed, et cetera, that when bias can come in, that can actually be pretty negative on society. So I think we have to be very careful about how those two things, intersect, kind of the tremendous value that we can get out of autonomous vehicles with fewer deaths, or, surgeries done by robots, or, freeing up people's time in their home, et cetera, versus aspects that can kind of pull in human biases that can, negatively impact people's lives, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that, in your question of then what are we? What is our job in this world? Like, because you think you're taking care of your family, yet you go to your job, you do the thing, you take care of your family. All right, now if the robot is really taking care of a lot of things at home, and the robot is really helping you at work, there is this feeling like, all right, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, all right, spending time with you. If you don't have kids, then what should you be doing? Like, where are you spending your time, right? Because now you've freed it all up with these robots.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's the question, and I can go first, but I'll maybe see what you would do in your free time. Maybe I can start with mine.
Yeah, let me hear.
I mean, my kids are in school, so there'd be a lot of hours in the day that I wouldn't necessarily be doing anything. But I imagine I want to be in nature more. I would work on like all these creative projects and other things. Some of the things that, you and I got going on the side, we could talk about later time, spending more time on that. I'd probably do a lot more reading. I really enjoy learning about the world and kind of the great unknowns, and just being able to kind of spend more time going into that to have a better sense of the universe. I'd probably spend my time, doing more stuff like that. I think if I could still like monetize otherwise in a way that just freed up a lot of time for, daily tasks that could be automated, that's probably how I'd spend my time. What about you?
I mean, you take money and stuff out of the equation, right? Now you're just doing things for the love of doing them. It's a rare, because like, as a first generation like immigrant, like your whole thing was like my whole like thing was to make enough money to survive and make it in this country and make your parents proud, and like it was all work to make a living, to have a home, to have a family. You take all of that stuff away and strip it away, and it's like, all right, what do you really want to do with your time? I mean, it's nostalgia. Like, I'm going to try to go back and try to get all the things, and spend the time that I didn't get to when I was working all those years, right? So I'm thinking, travel, go to the beach, learn how to. I don't really know how to swim. Go to the beach, go swim in the ocean, learn how to. I don't know. I don't even know.
That's what I would do as part of my free time. You and I would go to the YMCA. I would teach you how to swim.
Swim, surf. I don't know. Like, I start to relate. I probably would start to relate to, like, I always joke, like, the rich people problems. of like trying to discover yourself. I'm like, that's not a problem for me. Like, that's not even an issue. You know how like rich people would like their kids would like grow up and be like, I got to go find myself. I'm going to go get lost and get my arm caught in a rock in the Grand Canyon and have to cut it off and discover myself. Like that didn't occur to me. Maybe it would if you got robots around.
I know. I guess
I would need to find a little word.
I need to feel alive.
I need to feel alive because like all of that's taken away. Like I don't know. Like those are things that it's for me. Even talking about it is hard to grasp. But I imagine that's what I would do. Like imagine having like it's not even the freedom. Just having the thought of like, hey, I don't have to go to work. I don't have to like do this thing. I don't have to, take care of all these things and pick up my kids and take all that stuff away. Like, what are you gonna do? It's a wild thought. Like it is. Yeah. It is kind of crazy. Like, and that's probably the world that maybe not we're gonna live in right away, but
maybe like our kids.
Our kids, our kids,
for sure.
Like, you're gonna have to really get down to the core of what do you love? What do you want to do? Like, take money and take all these things away. Like, what are you? Like, who? Like, that's it's
pretty deep
stuff. Yeah, like that's like
it's pretty deep.
Your life,
yeah,
it's kind of an exciting thing, and it's probably a cause for a lot of people to have like anxiety and all these things. But like, it's pretty neat. I'm excited to hear what people. I'm actually a little scared too what people are going to spend their time on, but it should be a good thing. I would hope. Like, it's two ways to look at it. This is going to be terrible for humanity, or the opposite, which is like it's going to be great for us and almost free ourselves to do things that we love and care about.
Yeah, it is interesting that you mentioned like that last piece of like, will it be great for humanity or will it be terrible? I feel like Elon's in the camp where it's like it could be great for humanity, but there are a lot of like horrible things that could happen as well.
Yes.
And then like Sam Altman was like, oh no, we'll all be like pretty great. And obviously I think it will be kind of in the middle there, but it's very interesting, especially for us being in Silicon Valley. You talk to a lot of people in there. There's not a lot of people in the middle. I feel like there are more people who think, oh, it will be really great. Or other people was like, no, this will be incredibly dystopian. So we'll see. We'll see where we end up falling. Hopefully, for our kids' sake, more positive. Yeah.
I mean, and on that note, on the Elon Musk thing, I was going to tell you, I don't know if you heard, but the shareholders approved $56 billion pay package for him.
$56 billion.
$56 billion with a B, making him the highest paid CEO of all time.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about this today as well. I'm glad you brought it up because, there was a lot of pushback from regulators, and I think some groups of shareholders, I think there were some pension funds, et cetera, who were like, oh, you should never approve this compensation package, et cetera. But for me, and not to say that I'm not such a Elon stan that I'm going to say everything he does I support. Absolutely not. Right. But I think there is something about having an audacious goal as like an entrepreneur and everybody kind of doubting you and saying there's literally no chance you're going to be able to do this, and literally having, a number of, like, you can look back, you can look at all these times he was on with, like, when people were kind of talking about his compensation package and like how much he was getting in stock and how it was just crazy and laughing it off. And then for him to actually achieve that, and then for regulators to be like, nah, fam, we're not going to give you all that money. It's just it just doesn't seem right. I'm glad that it got approved. I don't think that's right. Especially when it was approved by shareholders before. It was like, the government came and said, no, you individual retail investors, you're just dumb. And like, you don't know what you're doing. And they're like, nah, we know what we're doing. This guy has delivered a tremendous amount of value. Yes. And why would people have the same, if they want to create an absurd incentive like that, if you achieve it, then why not?
Yeah, I'm with you. He's earned all of it. To me, it's like the fact that it even needs to be approved. He seems to have done. I mean, it's insane how many things that he's working on at one time with SpaceX and Tesla and X and Boring Company. Like, he's managing all these massive opportunities and doing a fairly good job in terms of like laying out a vision and a plan. We may not all agree with how he does it, but the guy has clearly gotten things done for Tesla and its shareholders, and I feel like I don't know where you get the number 56 billion or why 56 and not 40 or 20 or 100, whatever at that point. But like, hey, if that's the number that's ultimately going to keep him motivated and happy, then by all means, I think you should do it um, for your shareholders. Really, if you just think about
Yeah.
it in that terms, that guy has done so much for the industry and the economy. Um, why would you not approve something like that? That's what's going to keep him going, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's clearly not a money that's driving him. It's it's legacy and impact on the world, and he's give him the dollars to do it. If he wants to buy a gold-plated suit and island, go do it. I don't know. Like at this point, he's kind of earned it. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, or at least like again, just to kind of go back. Yeah, relative to what was set out and relative to the terms that I'm going to deliver X, and if I deliver it, I'm going to get this, and everybody agrees, and then you say you're going to take away that, like just that premise seems very wrong to me.
Oh, totally.
So
now, I mean, I disagree with a lot of these like failing CEOs that get these massive like parachutes. Like that bothers me like a lot. But like if you're winning, it's a whole different ballgame, right? Like I feel like you should get what you deserve, right? You took the risk. Like he put all of his money on the line and he turned the thing around. So like there should be a payout, whether it's 56 billion or some other number. I don't know, but and let's go the flip side of it.
Yeah.
The Fisker company files for Chapter 11. If you don't know, Fisker is another electric car brand. I think it's Heinrich Fisker.
Yep.
That runs that. I think it's the second time now filing Chapter 11. Got like $500 million bill. A couple of Fisker, Karma and Ocean, I think, are the cars that are still out there that have had a multitude of issues and just massive amounts of debt to build these cars. But he also has an incredible vision, wanted to make electric, similar to Elon, wanted to make electric cars more prevalent today and took a stab at it, and it doesn't look like he's done it, but there you go. It's the opposite end of it.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, right, like basic economics, a product is created and then, the market can kind of decide on, whether, it's going to create value or not. So I think that like the system kind of worked in that way. Hey, if it's not a great product and people don't buy it, then a company doesn't work out. I'll never, punch down on on anyone trying to like go out there and do a startup as an entrepreneur, because like both you and I know like very intimately what it takes to kind of create a business and try to make it successful. That being said, my sense is, I think you have a better sense than me because maybe you've done a little bit more reading on Fisker, but like my general sense was like they were a bit ahead of their skis in terms of what they're delivering and the product, and maybe a bit of hubris like going on there. So I don't think that's necessarily good. And then also you have the compounded impact of influencer reviews and the world we live in, where that can change the fortune of a company like literally in a day, and something just for everybody to be conscientious of. But I think ultimately it's a story of sometimes you create products and people love them and you create a successful business. Other times you have like an idea around a product and you don't necessarily execute at the same level as everyone else, and that business fails. Right. It just comes down to that.
And I think a lot of it is like we've talked about, competition in this thing kind of speaks for itself, right? You've got Tesla and Elon, and you've got GM, you've got all these auto manufacturers that are
all the ones in Asia as well that are like creating great cars now at relatively low cost.
And so the decisions you make for your cars today may not actually fit your vision, but you had to cut corners to get a car out the door because of competition, and maybe that they didn't pan out the way you thought, and like you said, the negative reviews come in, and it's just this cascading vicious cycle of like short-term things, even if your long-term plan was great. It's like you've got to deliver today and now, especially for shareholders, in a way that's competitive. And if you can't do
Yeah,
that, this is kind of what happens.
totally.
It's a sick world. It's a tough world,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like you just got to deal with it.
On the maybe on the opposite end, Nvidia, though briefly, became the world's most valuable company. I think on Tuesday it rose like 3.2% to 135, and there's a market cap of like 3.3 trillion, surpassing Microsoft and Apple. Obviously, it's come back down to third place, since then. But I think they've been up like 170% this year compared to Microsoft, like a 19% increase. And just bringing them up because you create a tremendous product and you have a great vision and you execute on that vision, and that dovetails with like a trend where all the work that was done on kind of those chips that NVIDIA is creating for gaming kind of dovetail very well into what's required for AI and all these models and kind of like data processing. Then you get an NVIDIA. So it can happen. It can happen both. It can happen either way. Yeah.
And then and ChatGPT and OpenAI working on NVIDIA also. They had some big news recently as well, right?
Yeah, just revenue at OpenAI is booming. I don't know if it was something they publicly announced, but I think based on some internal documents people got a hold of, I think annualized revenue for OpenAI is supposed to be like 3.4 billion, up from like 1.6 billion 6 months ago. And the subscription version of ChatGPT, is doing really well. They're getting approximately, I think, 200 million annually from Microsoft, which pays OpenAI a cut of the sales from its models via Azure, and they're just crushing, man. Like it's printing money, and obviously a lot of other platforms are leveraging OpenAI and their models, ChatGPT. They seem to be doing these deals and partnerships with publishers kind of every other week, and we've talked about that in a number of different episodes. But just continued tremendous progress. I don't know to type. Yeah,
I paid for it. I did it.
You paid the 20.
Yeah, I paid the 20, and I taught my daughter, my kids how to use it, and get them thinking in terms of like how to interact with it and make things and do things and be more. I just wanted to like engross them in it a little early, so they at least their brains start thinking about this as a, hey, maybe I can start asking ChatGPT, or I can do this. I don't know. I just felt like I should probably do it earlier
Totally.
better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. This is really cool. It's an interesting time to look at the world and be a part of this tech industry.
Yeah, and thankfully we're at a part of our career where we're not starting from scratch now, because it'd be pretty daunting. I imagine for some of the younger folks watching, it's daunting. And to that point, just try to continue learning, stay on top of knowledge and trends. Hopefully we're somewhat helpful in that, in terms of exploration of ideas and thinking through some of this. But a lot of exciting elements. And go ahead.
That's a good point. If you're young and you're getting into this, my advice would be absolutely dig into this stuff. All the tools, try to get on the bleeding edge and understanding how things work and how you use them. Because people that are working and set in their ways probably won't have the time to really dig and understand these tools as much as you will, right? So if you're young and you're looking for a way to fit in and you're looking for a job, make sure you understand how to use these tools, what they're capable of, where are their faults, all of that, and figure out how to use these things for jobs. If you're interested in a job or a field, dig around, see what you can find out using some of these tools that can help support you, and I think that'll equip you to sort of find a niche or a role, how you can fit in and get ready, because others probably aren't doing that.
Totally. And one additional thing I'll add on that, shameless plug. Every day on LinkedIn, I post, kind of daily consumer tech and stories and things going on. So if that's helpful, of just following content, I try to just aggregate, different stories. So
I appreciate it.
Leverage that.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Tito.
And then what else? What any other news topics you can think of that you can throw in?
Yeah, maybe just to talk about quickly, just kind of scrolling through our docket here. Maybe just talk quickly about, well, maybe talk quickly about Tubi. So I know that you're familiar with Tubi. I'm kind of like a fan. For those of you unfamiliar, they a platform that has like kind of free streaming video content, and a lot of times creators, particularly those from underrepresented communities who can't necessarily get their shows on other networks, they'll put their content on there, and it's grown exponentially. I think viewers are up 46% from last year. They outperformed Disney Plus, Peacock, Max, Paramount in terms of like viewership. Only YouTube right now has more viewers among free ad-supported streaming platforms. Third quarter revenue up 22%. They're really crushing it. And they also have a very young median age of viewers. That's at 39 years old, which is the youngest in television. So it kind of speaks to a trend of people looking for this free content now, particularly up against competitors like the Netflixes and Hulu's and HBO's of the world, where you have to pay, where people are like, I just can't pay all this money for all this content. I want differentiated content. Maybe for multicultural folks, I want multicultural content that I can't get as much on there as well. And this provides like an opportunity for them, to actually do that. So I think it's like a very interesting kind of company to be watching if you're interested in the media space and all the strides they've made.
And really just content in general. Like if you're looking for something to watch different, I tend to like every once in a while I'll just go in and kind of just dive through and see what's interesting and peek on all of them. I just kind of like to do that. You can't just keep watching whatever Netflix recommends. You've got to go through see what else.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
It's a nice way to diversify your content, so to speak. But YouTube, I mean, it's hard to beat YouTube. For me, I don't know about you. At night, I'll just catch up on I've got this bubble with my algorithm now. I just log into YouTube and it knows what I've watched, and I can kind of go through all the things. It's really neat. Like I will say that it takes the thought process out of it, but it also kills the spontaneity of like flipping channels and seeing what's on and all of that. So it's fun to like, go into a new platform and sort of figure that out.
Totally.
And on that front, there's also another announcement on YouTube that they are now adding server-side ads. That's kind of crazy. And what that means is basically when you're about to go watch a video, it goes and it puts the ad right on the server. So when you're watching the video, the ad just pops up first and you have to watch the ad on the server itself, as opposed to like an ad popping up over, it loads the content and then it puts an ad on top of it. And then like ad blockers can go get it. Now it's integrated right into the server. So when you hit, for example, if we had ads, which we don't, but if you hit ours, as it's going to pull it, it'll pull an ad first, and it'll make you watch that ad, and then while you're watching that ad, it'll pull the rest of the content you watched. Just basically forces you to watch more ads, more ad revenue. What are your thoughts?
Well, RIP pop-up blockers. First and foremost, I mean those may go the way of the dinosaur with this new technology now. And listen, companies are they're trying to increase revenues. Like a lot of these tech companies are no longer considered growth stage companies, or starting to be more considered value stage, but they need to figure out how to monetize more. They have to meet these increasingly higher kind of revenue and growth rates. And so they got to do what they got to do to make the business work. We saw it with Netflix. We're seeing with Google now in terms of, increasing revenue and doing things that maybe for the average consumer, they're like, come on, YouTube, you already make so much money. Why are you doing this? Well, they're beholden to stake to their shareholders. And this is just the way that, that it works.
I mean, if I'm being honest, that like I watch less and less ads now today because I don't watch live TV. The only time I really notice ads is when I'm watching sports and live content. Like I don't really notice it anywhere else. So I think they're gonna need to find ways to put ads in more things in more places, because I'm a YouTube junkie. I use YouTube Premium. It removes the ads. So for me, it's like I gotta go out of my way to see an ad, right? If I'm looking, which I threw back in Netflix with ads. I have HBO now with ads. I went backwards, um, just not only to save money, but like part of me as marketers, I was like, I want to see some of these ads. Like,
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah. All right. Anything
Cool,
else
man.
top of mind?
I think that's all for this week, man. This is good stuff. I'll be curious to see if anyone has any comments on rate of progress with technology and what they would think about robots in the home or how they would use their time. Maybe you could comment on that in the video. As always, please like and subscribe to the channel. That really helps us out and helps more
We have
people find our
29
content.
subscribers. Nobody entered our contest for the free gear, so maybe
I know. I'm surprised.
It's the gear. Maybe it's something else. Maybe if there's something else we should give away, we'll do that. We'll pick somebody regardless. We'll pick a subscriber to give away the jacket to. But otherwise, we appreciate everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.
Sounds good. Later, Tito.
Later.